Hey, good people. Max here. Haven't made a video in a while. I've just been focusing on my career in the military. Just got out of airborne school at Fort Benning. Now I'm stationed here at Fort Bragg as a paratrooper. Um, just want to get down into the video I wanted to make today, and it's about how society doesn't facilitate the need for curiosity. And I say this because most people live and travel within maybe a 10-mile radius. So we can't confidently say we know what exists and what doesn't exist. I mean, most of our needs are met within 2 to 3 miles. And society's built that way because ease of access. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's, it's not built on the need to facilitate curiosity. It's not built on the need to explore anything and explore anything new. It's like it's already been kind of done for us, which is not necessarily a good thing. But, it does aid in the survivability of mankind. Like the fact that we live, everywhere you live at in the United States, you could go 5 miles down the road at most, 20 miles down the road and get, your basic toiletry supplies, your food, and then come back home. So can't really say we know what's out there, what hasn't been explored, I mean, has by somebody, but, for most of the populace, including myself, it really hasn't, we don't, we don't get out enough. We don't get out of our, we don't get out of our box enough to really explore and be curious about what's really out there. And the education system is built the same way. And it's not a bad thing, The education system, most people say it's a bad thing. It's meant to educate you on the basics of life. You got your reading, math, science. The basic things you need to know about those. The education systems are built for you to listen, not to question, And like I said, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it isn't all good either, because they teach, a certain system in a certain way that locks people in to not exploring other ways to explore those subjects, which is kind of a bad thing. So, yeah, we can't really say we know what exists, what doesn't exist, It's just, but we have feelings, we have a feeling of this and that and what's out there, and those feelings are usually right, like we all know that most of the people that follow this channel or follow anything I talk about are believers in some kind of higher power and some kind of surrounding force that either aids or abandons us depending on our actions in this realm. But we can sit here and speculate, but we really don't know what it is. We just know that there's a feeling, and, we can put labels to things. But it's like the topic of ghosts and aliens. Do we know that they exist? Have we really explored the earth enough to know what kind of species of animals are out there? What kind of, mammals and reptiles and foliage is really out there? Every time you get on the internet, you see some kind of new animal, some kind of new plant that they've found and posted, We don't know what exists, I can confidently say I don't, I can confidently say I don't know. I think it's good to keep being a student of life and constantly, say, hey, I'm an idiot, and, I'll learn as I go. The moment we start, saying, hey, I for sure know this, and nothing else is true, like, we kind of lost the plot. If we keep our mind open, and you'd think being in the military, you're like, well, this guy's talking about having an open mind. He's in the military. They teach you to but really the military teaches you to have an open mind to things. They tell you to question things, and they do that to better the force, because if you never question anything and you have a bad leader just telling you do this, do that, do that, and you're wondering why you're doing those things and it's causing you to fail, then, you know, that's not really a good force. That's a force built upon a dictatorship. But we live in America, and, you know, we should question things. We should question our leadership. We should question why we're doing things. And if there's a better way to do it, we should do it. And there is a better way to do things, you know. We should get out more. We should explore more. But yeah, that's the end of the video. I'm not going to make a, 20-minute video and have you sit here and stare at me for 20 minutes. You know, nobody really cares about that. But simple message, and also I make these videos, to work on my public speaking skills. And it helps with public speaking. So with that, I'm going to end the video, and I'm going to try to make a daily, if not every other day, video on some topic. Feel free to listen, feel free to ignore them, but yeah, have a good one.